Yeah, come in gaming here and do the history of autism part 2. Um, During the 1930s, Dr. Asperger's just called it autism, and the 30s were not a good time to be an autistic. Started doing experiments on us. In Germany, he took autistics, started to do brain experiments, poking at the brain, looking at it, and was wondering, saying, how come Big Freud never found this? And he would always criticize Sigmund Freud, and then during 1939, he ordered the extermination of non-desirables. I'm not going to go through details with that. During the 40s, autistics were institutionalized in the Allied countries, and Dr. Asperger's was trying to cure autism, but when he found out he could not, he just ordered the death. That's why Dr. Asperger's is the most evilest doctor ever, and that's why we should not connect him to the autistic world. During the 40s, after World War II ended, the Allied countries took out all the diagrams and found out in the early part of World War II, Germany was doing lobotomies. So then they started doing that to autistics. During the 40s and 50s and 60s, autistic individuals were placed into institution, electric shock, and lobotomies. Then by the 60s, the Kennedy family outlawed lobotomies. And in the 70s, we still were institutionalized. The 50s were the worst part of it, of the institutionalization of autistics for like Canada and other countries. Germany in the 50s were the first country in 1960 to outlaw lobotomies. They said it was a barbaric and very bad practice. It took another 5 years for the rest of the world to outlaw it. But autistics were, in the 60s, they thought autism was a form of schizophrenia, but really it isn't. Those are two different conditions, and autism is not a disease and whatsoever. But they would lock us away and not understand. In schools, we would get kicked out because we would get really angry if someone teased us. You can, about Dr. Templeton, she's an autistic individual. She was in school in the 60s and 70s, got kicked out of multiple schools. During the middle of the 20th century, autism was still not, the world wasn't great for autistics, but I will go on about the 70s and 80s, the next part of history of autism. That's the end of this blog. I hope you enjoyed this, but I will show you how much further autism went with the world with autism next week.